Hey, what's up, guys? Urban here. We got a really exciting content drop today. We have a new character coming to the holotables. That's Resistance Hero Finn. He's already in the game. They released the content update, and then boom, it's on the servers. And there's just a new Resistance guy here. I'm really excited about this guy's kit. He's going to be amazing for the Resistance. You know, the Resistance squad at this point is a really good B tier squad. I would say they can beat a lot of decent teams, but they lack a lot of survivability. And what Finn brings, I think, is a lot of this kind of continuing turn meter train, a lot of healing and stuff. So we're going to get into it and look at the kit, and then we're going to kind of talk about how he's going to fit into the next few Grand Arena Championships. Because I believe, and then later on we're going to talk about kind of long term, where do we think he fits. So we got some new mechanics in this kit, and it doesn't make a lot of sense as we're looking at it. And so I think there's a lot more here. So let's get right into the kit here. His first attack is called Mending Fire. And you can see it deals special damage. So he's one of the only resistance, maybe the only resistance character who deals special damage. So for what that's worth. And the weakest resistance ally recovers 10% health and protection. So that's pretty cool. And one thing to remember though is that with BB-8 and with JTR special, where she's calling in an assist, you could call this in and use that as a good recovery mechanism. So I'm thinking like in 3v3 you could put JTR with BB-8 and Finn, and then you got a pretty good chance there of calling in Resistance Hero Finn, RHF. That doesn't really roll off the tongue, but Hero Finn. Let's say Hero Finn. And then you'll be able to not only reduce its cooldown of Strength of Will, and we'll look at Strength of Will in just a minute, but you'll then recover a little bit of health and protection. So it's going to be really good for recovering banners. It's going to be really good for just kind of getting this engine going and kind of keeping people healthy. So let's look at Strength of Will. So Strength of Will is the first special. It's got a cooldown of 4. Resistance Hero Fins become Inspired, and we're going to look at Inspired down here in a second. And then deals special damage twice to the target enemy. So again, he's doing special damage, which is pretty cool. And hopefully what that means is a lot of the special damage gear pieces are actually easier to get pieces, like the wristband at gear 12 and some of the other stuff. Those are kind of easier to get pieces typically. They're not Carbantes and things like that, so hopefully it won't be Carbantes heavy. We're going to take a look at SWGH.GG in a minute as well if we have time. So anyway. Resistance Hero Finn becomes Inspired, damages twice the target enemy can't be evaded, so that's pretty cool. We're going to swap turn meter with another resistance ally. It doesn't look like this is targeted. I think normally it would say another, target another resistance ally, so I think it's random. It's going to randomly add turn meter to another one, and since he's moving, he'll have 100% turn meter, so it's going to kind of give that person an extra turn, which is pretty cool. And then this attack has plus 10% defense penetration and plus 5% critical damage for each inspired ally. So right now, I don't see a way for anybody besides Hero Finn to get inspired. So I think what we're thinking about is the Galactic Legend Ray is likely to have a more synergy with that. So you can see Inspired Resistance characters gain bonuses when they are inspired. This effect expires after receiving 3 critical hits. And Inspired, it doesn't look like they're going to explain to us what Inspired means. Let's take a look and see. Yeah, they don't explain to us what Inspired means. It actually doesn't tell us. So that's not great. That's not a great kit. Presumably, the Inspired buff is going to be on the new Ray's kit, and then it'll probably be explained in her leadership, is my guess. So Rallying Call is his second special. It's at another cooldown of 4. Dispel debuffs from all allies, deal special damage to all enemies, and rally resistance allies. Tanks get taunt and critical immunity, attackers assist, which is pretty cool. Here's in support, restore 15% health and protection to all allies, which is pretty sick. And the only support characters in the resistance as it stands today are the 3 droids. So if you had all 3 droids in there, then every time Finn does this, he's going to restore 15% health and protection to all allies, which is pretty sick. And then attackers are going to assist. One thing to keep in mind though is that JTR is a tank. She's not really a tank, but her role is a tank. So you're gonna grant taunt to JTR, which might not be exactly what you want to do. So that's not ideal. So I'm thinking that the new Ray probably will not be a tank, but we'll have to see. So that's a pretty cool though. Having a dispel is definitely something that's nice. That's something that the other Finn actually does as well. He does a dispel and a heal, but it doesn't do that AoE damage. So this is pretty cool. The other thing to keep in mind is there's not a whole lot of AoE damage under for resistance right now. Holdo is the only one who has an AoE on her Bunker Buster ability. So this will, under a JTR lead again, this is going to add potentially add expose to all the enemies, which is obviously going to do a lot of cool stuff. So that's really cool to be able to do AoE. And then even under the other Fen Zeta lead, adding expose and stuff could definitely, on an AoE basis, could definitely be really cool. So this is a really great kit. I'm really excited about this kit, guys. Spark of the Resistance. This is unique. All resistance allies have 100% counter chance, 50% defense, and 50% tenacity, while resistance hero Fen is inspired. This is really strong because, again, as we mentioned before, resistance is not the hardiest team. They're very easy to kind of walk over. If you can get a turn meter train going and keep people debuffed, you can definitely do a lot of work with the resistance. They're very offense oriented, but they are pretty fragile. Even the tanks aren't all that tanky. So you've got Fen and Holdo and Poe, and these are not tanky characters. And then JTR, who's not really a tank. So getting that counter chance is really good. You'll have a chance to do Fen's basic, which as you know heals health and protection, and then everyone else's basic is probably going to do damage. Which you could call on R2 for an assist. You could do all sorts of things. So these counter chance is really strong. Defense and tenacity is going to make these guys a lot stronger. So I'm really excited about that. And then it looks like the Zeta is that additionally when Fen is inspired, when an ally is prevented from using an ability during their turn, they recover 40% health and protection and gain 40% turn meter. This is nasty. This is a sick ability. But one of the things that's not clear to me though is, are they saying if someone's ability blocked? Because that prevents me from using a specific ability, but I can still use an ability. Or is it just for stun and fear? I don't know what other status effects would prevent you from using an ability. And even fear, I'm not sure if that is actually if that's actually preventing you from using an ability, right? Fear causes you to lose a turn. It doesn't cause you to not be able to use an ability. So it might just be stun. Is it just stun? Or the other possibility is that the First Order, or the new Kylo, rather, is going to have some kind of other ability that prevents you from using an ability during their turn. So that's a possibility as well. So this could be a counter to something that doesn't even exist yet, or it could just be talking about stun. But it seems like if it was talking about stun, it would have just say stun. So maybe they're just playing for the future to say, hey, this is kind of a general ability, and it maybe in the future they think there's going to be some other status effects that prevent you from taking a turn. So overall, he's an attacker. He does special damage, which is different for resistance. He does AoE damage, which is different for resistance. He has a lot of kind of passive healing, not necessarily passive healing, but his abilities do healing, but they do other things also, right? So Strength of Will does special damage, and then it does the inspired portion that has some other abilities. We're going to go look up Inspired and kind of look through that really briefly too. And then for Rallying Call, he dispels debuffs and deals special damage. So he's kind of doing these things where he's doing multiple things at once, which is really cool. Where he's not only doing damage or dispelling, but he's also kind of doing other things, which is really important for kits like this. For the resistance, this is kind of a complicated kit, but it's definitely something that's gonna help them a lot. So let's take I'm trying to look up and figure out what does Inspired do. It just says bonuses when they're inspired. It doesn't actually say what Inspired does. So that's kind of strange that they don't even tell us what it does. But in any case, what that means though is that it's going to have all these bonuses to resistance characters. So everything that we've seen right now is really cool. It's strong. Even if you ignore the inspired part, it's still strong. So yeah, it actually says so on the developer insight, it actually says new mechanic inspired. The inspired status effect does nothing on its own, but interacts with Fen's kit's abilities. So potentially we're going to see the inspired add something else, like maybe on the Galactic Legend Rey, maybe she adds inspired to other allies, and then maybe she calls all inspired allies to assist or something like that. So my guess is that we'll see something like that, where they inspire. Maybe if there's any other new resistance people, we'll see some of that. the inspiration part, but I don't think we're going to. I don't think that's going to go away. I think we're going to see more inspired. And then the obvious reason why we think inspired is going to be relative to Rey is because she's coming out, but also because her current leadership is called inspirational presence. So this idea of being inspired by the leader is definitely something that's in the Resistance other kits. So I think it's a safe assumption that's coming down the pipe. So so that is really cool, and it looks to me like a lot of these bonuses that we're going to get here, at least his unique, is going to be based on Finn having the inspired buff. So we can probably expect that to happen. So overall, if you guys haven't started working on your Resistance squad, I would highly encourage you to do so. We're gonna have a really strong group of people right now, group of characters. The droids are obviously really good. I'm right now just hoarding gear because I'm not sure who's going to be needed, and I don't really want to throw gear on someone who is not going to be necessary. But definitely Resistance Hero Finn and the new the Hux and Sith Trooper, I think those guys are no-brainers. I think they're definitely going to be required for whatever it's going to take to get the new Galactic Legends characters, and I think we're going to really want those characters. The other thing to keep in mind is the timeline that these guys are being released in as Marquise. It should not be surprising to us. So if you look at the history of when Marquise, how long it takes Marquise to be farmable, it usually takes about 4 weeks for them to go into chromium packs and stuff, and then another 4 weeks for them to be to go into to be farmable. So in 8 weeks, that'll put us in the middle of February, and then typically big events like this show up at the end of the quarters. So so that way it kind of helps them bolster their sales as the quarter ends. So that would be the end of March. So what's going to happen is, what I believe is going to happen is, these guys are going to be farmable mid-February, and then we're going to have about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks after that to the end of March, before the Galactic Legends guys are farmable. That's what I'm predicting right now. And what that does mean, though, is that we have a lot of time to hoard currencies and different things. So overall, I'm really excited about this kit. It's a really interesting kit to me. It's going to make the Resistance really, really strong. And I think it's going to allow us to have two really powerful Resistance teams as we get this new Rey that's coming in, and then pulling in the Resistance Hero Finn and maybe a couple other characters. And then having, you still got your JTR team that's going to do a lot of good work over there as well. So I'm really excited about this. And I think we're going to have a really interesting time after these guys get released. So anyways, that's all for now. Resistance Hero Finn, he's going to be out tomorrow on the holotables on the 19th. He's going to be out. I can't believe how quickly they just threw this guy on the holotables. He looks really good, and seemingly he's going to be a decent counter to a lot of different teams. He's going to get the counter chance to Resistance. He's going to get them a lot stronger, keep them healthy, feed them turn meter and turns, and overall it's just going to be a really strong component for the teams going forward. So anyway, that's all for now, guys, and I will look forward to looking at this kit further, and then we'll go from there. Thanks.